Great job! You've created a header and a footer, used variables and conditionals to make the site easier to build and maintain. There's one final thing that we want to add to our navigation. We'll use conditionals again in our header file and get the appropriate link underlined. Let's go into Workspaces and take a look at header.php. I've coded the CSS file to underline links in the navigation with a particular class, a class of on. Adding the class to our navigation link will make our links underlined, but we can't just add this class in plain HTML, or the link would underline on every page. Instead, we need to add it with PHP in a conditional. We need a variable that tells us what section we're in. If we're in the Books section, we can add the class to the Books link. Let's open up catalog.php and create a variable for this. Right after this line where we assign page title a value of full catalog, we're going to add section equals null for default. Because by default, we're not showing any of our specific categories. We're just showing the full catalog, so we don't need anything to be underlined. Remember to use the single equal sign here when assigning a value. We also need to change that variable in our conditional block. In our Books section, let's add a variable here and assign it a value of books. In Movies, we'll add it again with a value of movies. And finally, in Music, we'll add section again with a value of music. Back in our header.php file, we can write a conditional to check the value of the section variable. Let me give you a word of caution. It can get a little confusing writing PHP code that conditionally generates a piece of HTML. In a case like this, I would recommend adding the plain HTML that you want first before writing the PHP code. So right now we have on here. So we're going to add our PHP code. Open our PHP block, and we're going to start by just echoing out space on in quotes, end with a semicolon, and close out our PHP. Now we want to add our conditional. So we'll add if section, and we want to make sure we use our double equal sign because we're doing a comparison, equals books. Then we want to echo out our on. Now let's copy all of this and paste it into Movies. And change this to Movies. Paste it here and change it to Music. And finally paste it into Suggest and change it to Suggest. The last one checks if the section variable has a value of suggest. Then we want to mark this link as active. Of course, we also have to set that variable on the Suggest page. So let's open Suggest, and let's assign the variable right after our page title again. Section equals suggest. Great. Now, even though we're not using underlining in our navigation for the index page, we need to add the variable there as well to prevent errors. So open index.php and assign a value of null. Index.php section equals null. Great. Now let's save all these pages. Now we'll go into our browser and refresh the page, and we see that books is underlined. We click Movies, Music, and Suggest. And when we click on back to our home page, nothing's underlined. We're making some great progress on our media library. We have 3 different web pages in place, and we've learned about variables and conditionals. We'll spend some time on the catalog itself in the next set of videos, populating some of the actual data and playing with arrays.